The pledge. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day and for all of these wonderful people here today. Lord, we pray for just wisdom and guidance as we can.
Liberty and justice for all.
Elders want to read some announcements.
Welcome to the Lafayette Public Library Board of Control meeting. As board trustee, I would like to announce the following. This is a public meeting to address the Board of Control on any item on the agenda. Please complete and submit the public speaker form prior to the calling of the agenda item in order to have the opportunity to speak. Items for submission to the board should be handed to Ms. Nancy Abear, seated at the table to our right. When addressing the board, state your name, parish of residence, and title for the official record. No debating or confrontational statements will be allowed. This is not a question or answer session where you can ask questions or demand answers of the board members or of employees. The board members may ask clarifying questions to ensure your concerns are understood. All comments must pertain to library business in general and the action item being considered in particular. The 3-minute rule will be in effect. Members of the public are asked to remain quiet during the meeting to allow the board to conduct its business efficiently and to refrain from making comments while other members of the public are addressing the board are desirable for the efficient proceeding of the meeting. Please silence all phones and electronic devices. Thank you.
All right. Before we go to the approval minutes, I want to welcome back Mr. Danny. Good to see you and have you. And you look grew a little hair back, came back a little bit. Oh, I'm just joking. Good to have you back. All right, we're gonna have the approval of the minutes.
Are we going to approve both minutes at the same time?
We can do that.
Okay, well, regarding the minutes from the April 29, 2024 meeting, I noted 3 things that needed correction. On the title of the minutes, if they can add the word special board meeting to that, because it was a special board meeting.
Excuse me, Ms. Ella, and actually, I would say replace Director Search Committee with special board meeting.
Okay. And then in the minutes, there was a line that said someone from the public. The person from the audience that spoke was Miss Mary Lib Garcio. If y'all can change that to replace it with her name.
Where is that?
Page 2. Second page.
Yes, page.
The bottom of page 2, last paragraph.
And it might mention that twice.
It does.
Okay.
3 times, 4 times.
Yeah, I thought it mentioned it a couple of times.
From the middle of the page to the end of the page.
And then the third thing that I noted on the April 29 minutes was that it was Daniel Kelly that seconded the motion to appoint Danny Gillane and not James Thomas. And I have no corrections on the other minutes.
How did we miss it so much to be that many times?
Yeah.
Is it something that's already recorded or?
Yeah, my assistant made a transcript of it so we could send it to HR very quickly, so. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the April 15th meeting and the April 29th special board committee meeting with the proposed changes by Ms. Arsenal.
I'll second that.
Any comments? Do we have a motion and a second? No. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion carries. All right, next order of business is the comments from library board, on the foundation report. That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
So Dan, is that anything on that you want to talk about with the comment report? The comment, for the library foundation report? No? Okay. We're going to the director's report.
Okay, there's not a lot. Okay. So we are now advertising for the 2 vacant librarian 2s and the librarian 1. We have sent over the initial paperwork for the library administrator, the assistant director position. We have a vacant building super. The director search is still open until May 31st. And the only other thing I want to report on is the library cards. So we have a number of policies that have been passed and laws that have been passed that affect the library cards. So we are going to move forward with, I believe I have till August 1st. I don't see a reason to wait until August 1st. So we are going to break our library cards June 1st. Oh, in that case, don't worry about it. It should be Monday. But we're gonna essentially have 4 basic types of library cards. We're gonna have the restricted cards for children will be the default card for anyone under 18. The Lafayette Public School cards will fall under that same rules. These cards will not be able to use a public computer. They will not be able to check out adult materials. They will not be able to check out materials aimed at anyone 18 or over in Cloud Library. And then we will have a non-restricted card for children, and a parent signs it, and that card will allow your child to check out anything from physical collection or Cloud Library, and it will also allow you to use the public computers. The regular adult card isn't changed. The out-of-parish cards aren't changed, except I do want to make a note that we are not going to offer a restricted card for out-of-parish patrons. If an out-of-parish patron wishes to get a card for their child, they will either have to sign to allow the child to have everything, or they will have to just get a card for themselves. We're responsible for the people of Lafayette. If the board tells me otherwise, I will of course change that. But we're responsible for the people of Lafayette. We did not offer restricted cards when the board changed and created the restricted card option. And I see no reason to change that. They do have access to their own libraries. With regard also to the restricted cards, my understanding is that none of this is retroactive. When you changed the policy initially and created the restricted card option, it was not retroactive. I don't think I have the ability to make that decision on my own. I think that is a decision that the board will have to take up at some point. It is, if the board decides that they wanted to apply to everyone who has an existing card, from a library standpoint, functionally, it's an overnight process. So if the board decides that, I can make it happen next day. So that's what we're planning on doing. I should have that in place by Monday. We've given staff the basics of what the cards can do and what they can't do. We've talked to the vendors who control, who sell us what controls the computers and cloud library. So everything should function within the local policies and the state law, and we should be in complete compliance. And that's really all I have.
Mr. President, I have a question. I guess two things. First, Mr. Danny, welcome back.
Thanks.
I wasn't here the first time around, but definitely glad to work with you. I've seen the effects of your work previously. With respect to the out of parish children, you said there's no functional or technical limitations that's prohibiting us from doing that. We just aren't at this point. Is that correct?
We weren't last time when we created the option for the restricted card, and so I mean I could create another patron type that would do that, but we just weren't at the time.
Okay. And then to make sure I understood properly, retroactive meaning, can you explain that part one more time?
Okay, so if a person currently has a library card and they're 17 years old, they have access to the computers and adult materials. When we go and would put this into effect, they would still have access to that. My understanding from legal opinion on the previous law and on this one is that laws aren't retroactive, and the only reason I didn't do it is because the previous time the board changed the policy, the board had made the decision, and I didn't feel comfortable undoing a board decision, and I didn't know really how to address that.
Gotcha. Ms. Page, you concur, is that correct, that it's not retroactive and there's nothing in the law that says to go back and make that change?
No law is retroactive unless it is stated that it's retroactive, or in certain circumstances this one isn't. And also the implementation guide that was put out by the AG's office clearly indicates that there is no time restriction for a parent to make the selection. So we just have to have the system in place. It's obviously in the board's discretion whether they want to void all existing cards and make all children re-sign up or not, but there's nothing legally requiring us to do that.
Okay, thank you. And then, I guess, question for both of you guys, is there anything both technically and also legally precluding us from making that decision? Because behind that would have to be some sort of communique going out to the parents of those children of library card holders to let them know if they do wish that the new default is now that they cannot, and they would have some means by which they would have to reenact that feature. So is that something that we could do either online, or would that require them to come to the library?
The law says that you have to come. So if the board, are you asking me if the board were to decide to make all existing child cards follow the rule, that new law?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the law states that we have to witness the signature. They would actually have to come in. From a technical standpoint, it's like I said, if the board made this decision, I could make it happen pretty much overnight. And with the new forms, we've created new forms and we've created a different color for each one. It's the same, it's so that the forms are completely different and staff know exactly what's going on. All of the forms now require a signature. So the previous, I think it was a previous law, but definitely the board's policy change while I was here before was that parents had to sign for a minor to get a library card. So we have made sure that people are signing and acknowledging the library policies, and the forms clearly indicate for a child card what your child can or cannot do. So for the ones that would allow a child to use a computer, the form indicates that your child, by signing this, your child can access adult materials and use the computer. And for the ones that do not, it's very clear that this allows you to check out materials for children and teens, but no adult materials, and that you do not have computer access.
Got you. And Ms. Page, thank you, sir. And Ms. Page, just to confirm, there's nothing from a legal standpoint that would preclude us from making that decision other than the inconvenience, because parents would have to come physically here and sign that in front of an employee. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's regarding the policy that we just passed for the book displays. We received a few emails that made it seem like the board said that no library could have face-out book displays, and I'd like you to address that.
So this predates me, but I do have an answer. The way the policy is, if a book is out-facing that has sexual content inside or on the cover, the new books were the interest. We always refer to it as a new book display. We're now referring to it as a new book collection, and we're not facing them outward. And the reason was a management decision, and that was that when someone goes and gets a new book, they're not all facing out, so there's only a certain amount of room on the shelves. So someone pulls off a new book that was facing out, and a lot of times people like to leave things the way they found them, so they will take the next book in line and they might just like move it over and put it face out, and that could be a romance novel, it could be anything. And so it was out of a abundance of caution that no one wanted to run the risk of essentially accidentally violating the policy. And I do not know of anyone at the library who has said that the board did this, but I mean, made the comment about no books to be face out. It was just decided that this was a better safe than sorry situation.
We received an email, Ms. Elder?
We received a few emails from people in the public
And the board.
regarding the books being spine facing only instead of face out, showing the cover and stuff. And the way they wrote the emails made it imply that it was the board that came up with this decision, and it's not the board that came up with this decision. As Mr. Gillane just said, it was a management decision. Well, I'm not opposed to having books face out,
Well,
but nothing with sexually explicit material on the cover or inside.
the other aspect of that is that I haven't received any of these emails, but I have seen one. One was forwarded to me by a board member, and I responded to that board member with essentially what I just told you.
That was me.
Yes.
We've received a few more also, and it directly stating which board member, they want to know which board member came up with this ridiculous policy. So for the record, it wasn't, we knew nothing about this. But could it happen anyway? I mean, regardless of whether there's a policy or not, regardless of whether it's the books on display, and Mr. Gillane, I know this predates you, so thank you for clarifying that. Anybody could just grab a book and put it out and leave it out on display regardless, so I'm trying to understand the full logic of it.
We actually had, before the board ever did a display policy, we actually had someone create a display on the first floor children's section of the library to protest maybe the rules that I had established before. And so yes, you're right, someone could do that. They could do it to make a point, they could do it accidentally.
When you say protest, you mean just kind of defy?
I think it was to let me know that they disagreed with me.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it's just kind of funny how we kind of always get the,
Right. Thank you for clarifying that for us and the public.
I'd like to go back to the previous topic. Regarding it being retroactive, I think my thinking when the law was enacted and the policy was enacted, the whole premise was, the intention was to protect children, protect their innocence. So I do have concerns. But also, I spoke to Mr. Gillane a little bit about this already. I do realize that changing something overnight, if the board would decide to do that, would be it wouldn't be popular. And so because we know the intention of the law, and I think that what this board has spoken already, I would ask that board members look at our policy over the next month, and maybe we can revisit this, because this may be something that we want to address. I do not recommend, if the board does decide to make a change, I do not recommend it being something overnight, even though technically it could happen. I don't think that would be wise or fair to the public at all. But there may be some measures that we want to tweak our policy, or there may be some measures that we would want to implement after enough advertising or public information. So just please keep that in mind.
All right. Financial reports, Mr. Larry.
Facilities report for the South Region Library renovation project is out for bid. Assuming we have no extensions to the bid date, we are hoping to open the bids on June 13th. As for the library renovation project, I've gotten the plans and specifications for the design development phase, with the exception of the civil engineering related work. The civil engineer has started his services, so as soon as we get that part done, we'll include them and hopefully bring that to you guys as soon as we're done review. The Northeast Library, legal is working on finalizing the land purchase and finalizing the plat approval. I think you might have a small update on that.
Oh, yeah, the final plat was recorded last week, so we should be closing this week or early next week, but within the next 8 to 10 days for sure.
Excuse me, may I ask a question? When you say closing, you mean actually closing?
If we sign the documents, we give them the check.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood it correctly.
Right.
Thank you very much.
As it relates to the broken glass panel here at the main library, it's finally being manufactured. I anticipate delivery the week of June 10th. That was not easy.
How long has that been?
I don't even remember. 4 months. I have a stack of paperwork on that one.
I'd like to suggest that in this next library that we not can use the same kind of materials, if that's the problem.
That'd be a great idea.
So, Mr. Angel, the board is requesting that in future additions or growth, buildings, construction, whatever, that you please share your wisdom and knowledge, and so we can avoid any problem.
Myself and our maintenance supervisor try to do our best in that process as far as how maintenance goes and how easy maintenance can be versus extremely tall ceilings that we can't reach the lights on, and we do address a lot of
So
that.
you'll be involved in the design phase and the
Absolutely.
architecture approval and all that stuff?
Absolutely, yes. Unfortunately, we had additional roof leaks at the South Regional Library. I filled out another warranty claim, just going through the process with that. After we receive our bids for the renovation project at South Regional Library, I'm gonna see what the numbers look like, see what our budget looks like, and move forward with the roof replacement project as y'all previously approved. I just wanted to make sure we had all the money now where we needed it before I went forward with that. That's all I have for facilities. As it relates to finances, included in your packet is a financial report for the current fiscal year starting November 1, 23, ending October 31st, 2024. It was run on May 15th. As of that date, we have collected $12.9 million in revenues and expended $6.2 million. In comparison to the previous fiscal year 23 at the same time, we had revenues of $12 million and expenses of $5.9 million.
Wait, excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Angel. Can you hold up the paper that you're talking about so I know that we're...
It's the financial report. It's got the... Yeah, that looks right.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Sorry, I think I need glasses too. Yes, so.
It says GL commitment analysis report.
Correct. Yes, that's it. Yes, as I was saying, $12.9 million for the current fiscal year as of May 15th in revenues, and expenses $6.2 million. In a comparison of where we were last year at this time, we had $12 million in revenues and $5.9 million in expenses. Revenues are doing great, expenses are pretty close to where we were. That's all I have for facilities and financial report.
I got a question for you, Ms. So, man, we had approved a couple of meetings ago an increase for the director's salary to $130, I believe. Is that included, or do we need to add that?
Oh, that's the next part we talk about. This was just a financial report.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about that when we do the proposed budget adoption.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I got excited.
That's okay.
All right.
Okay, I guess we're moving on to the next agenda item, which would be,
Yep, I move the business.
all right. All right, so what I've included for you guys is a proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. Provided you with a lot of information. I hope you all got to look over it. In summary, the proposed revenues are right around $13 million, $13,035,994. These are my estimates. This is going to change throughout the budget process. LCG might be a little more conservative in some areas. They might know more information than I do at this point, but it should be close. And that $13 million revenue is reflecting the current levy rates of 2.91 and 1.84 in our two property taxes. Again, that's subject to change later in the budget process. You guys will look at that probably in July, I think, when we recommend the levy rates to LCG administration and the parish council. We'll look at this again, we'll look at how our revenues are doing, how our expenses are doing, and we'll learn what happens with the reassessment this year. We'll learn if property values go up, go down, stay the same, and how it will affect our levy rates, our tax rates. I believe in a scenario where property values go up, our millage rates automatically go down to bring in the same dollar amount. And then vice versa, if property values go down, our levy rates automatically go up to bring in the same dollar amount. And again, there's variations to this, and obviously you can levy less at any point in time. So we'll talk more about levy rates in July. As indicated, we've got about $13 million in revenues budgeted. 99% of our revenue stream comes from the ad valorem property taxes. The other 1% come from our fines and fees for printing, late fines, damaged books, property fines, and donations. I'm just anticipating about the same donations from the Friends of the Library and the foundation. And then I'm not too sure what's going to happen with the LK and Cheryl Adamson Foundation. This will be the second year. In their initial letter to us, they said they would be giving money annually to us. So I'm just waiting to see what happens with the second year. I budgeted similar to what they gave us the first year, but I just don't know at this point what that'll be.
What they gave us last year?
I think it's 37,000, something like that. It's pretty substantial. Yeah.
It says 37.2,
Yeah, there you go.
and you budgeted 35 to be conservative.
Just to be safe. Yep. As for expenditures, I'm estimating our operating budget to be $12,146,588. Of that operating budget, personnel costs are 61%, which is about $7,445,306. In that budget there's no raises proposed. We don't really have that authority. If a raise is going to be proposed, it'll be done by LCG administration or by the parish our consolidated council, parish council in our case. So in the scenario of a 2% raise, it would add about $130,000 to the budget, to give you an idea. I don't know if any health insurance premiums are gonna increase, any other benefits, I don't know that at this point. So these are just good estimates based on prior years.
What you said again for the 2% raise, about what?
$130,000 a year.
And that's across the board, or?
Yeah, that would be all library employees.
Okay.
That's typically how they do raises in LCG. It's across the board, 2%, 5%, 3%, whatever it is. It's across the board, all LCG employees. Like I said, I don't know what's gonna change with any other employee benefits. That's all handled through LCG. If health insurance increases, we'll learn about that later during the budget process, typically when it's introduced. Same for any pension payment, retirement plans, that all comes out during the introduction of the budget if anything changes. So the other 39% of the budget is your non-personnel costs, which you have training of personnel, uniforms, building maintenance, equipment maintenance, grounds maintenance, janitorial supplies, the list goes on. It's all included in your printouts. I described what the accounts were, if there were any increases or decreases in them. If anybody had any questions about those, y'all can let me know.
Mr. President, if I may have a couple questions.
Sure.
Mr. Larry, thank you for putting all this together. I know a lot of grueling hours and trying to lay all this out, and then trying to look into the future and project all these costs. So I definitely appreciate all the work. A couple of questions. Number one, do you have a grasp on our library system versus maybe others around the state with 61% of personnel cost? Is that pretty average?
It's probably below.
Is it below? Okay. Okay, and then
We were about 63, 64 last budget.
we were here?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, thank you for that. And then I was kind of looking through on the proposed budget that you have, all the different line items in the detailed layout. And I was seeing that there was a 21% increase in group health insurance for retirees.
Yes.
I was wondering, where did that?
So when someone retires, they have the option, it was actually probably Danny, they have the option to retain health insurance through Lafayette Consolidated Government. They pay a higher premium, but we also continue to pay a premium as the employer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the benefit of being an LCG employee.
Right, but why did we go up 21% this year versus last year? Are we expecting more retirees, or what?
Hang on, let me see, did I go up?
It went up 21.11%.
In the proposal from next year, from this current year.
Oh, I'd have to go and double check that. It might have been generated from Lafayette Consolidated, from the budgeting department of LCG. I'll have to double check that for you.
Okay, and then the 4% drop on group health insurance was very welcomed, but very staggering in this economy and marketplace. I don't know anybody's insurance is going down. So I was kind of curious where that kind of came from.
Right, so when LCG budgets for group health insurance, they look at the list of employees that the library has. They say, okay, employee A is getting family coverage, and that's gonna cost the library 11 grand a year. Employee B is getting single health insurance covered. That's gonna cost the library 4,000, I don't remember the cost. But what they do is they look at our staffing, who's employed, who's not. If a position is vacant, they default budget family. So it all depends on when they look at the staffing, what positions are vacant, what family coverage the employee has. So that's how that number is gonna go up and down depending on when they run the numbers. They're gonna do it again in September, and that number is gonna change depending on who we hire, what health insurance they get.
So that's not based on any type of renewal quote or anything along that?
That may be, no, if that's not, that I don't know yet. I don't know if the actual premiums are gonna increase.
Okay.
It went down because when they looked at it, we probably had more employees on single health insurance coverage than on family health insurance coverage.
Gotcha. Do you know
It's
when?
gonna go up and down. It's gonna be in the proposed budget when they actually propose it.
Okay,
Yeah.
for the renewals. So we can anticipate probably a
You could
sizable
probably,
hit right there.
you could probably anticipate an increase most years.
Okay, and then, ground maintenance, there was a 27% increase. Is that an actual, or was that just anticipated, or?
Ground maintenance, yes, I had to bid out our landscape maintenance again, the contract expired, and nothing goes down in cost these days. I bid it out twice, and the first one was out of budget. So I bid it again, and I got the numbers within budget, so I had to accept it at that point. It's contract rates.
Gotcha. And within each one of those bidding proposals, how many vendors came back?
I think there were 3 or 4, yeah. It's been a minute,
It was over 6 or 7 between the two, somewhere around there?
6 or 7.
6 or 7 vendors
No, I think it was 3 or 4.
between both biddings?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
No. 3 or 4 each bid, yeah. I'd have to go back. Yeah,
I was just
I had
curious.
done that in, must have been summer of last year. So what you're seeing is the full year at this point. Last
Typically-
year, I was able to shift things around, cover the gap, but no, what you're seeing is the full year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Typically do 1, 3 vendors or more, right?
Yeah, there's no requirement, you just have to publicly advertise through, the bidding process, and that went through Lafayette Consolidated Government's Purchasing Department. It was a bid. It was a bid.
There's no legal because it's services, but our LCG policy requires us to.
Awesome.
Well, yes. Yeah, I bid it out just in case. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. And
Yeah.
again, this is all just for my further
Sure.
understanding here. Other insurances, there was a 40% increase, and although it was small, it just kind of stuck out to me on an increase. So what does that encompass, other insurance?
Oh, that's some, 40%. Yeah, we're actually behind now on the current premiums. That covers our leased facilities, with some liability, coverage, I believe, and some property coverage. That was our warehouse, Tucson, Milton. Yeah, the premiums just skyrocket, just like your home.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Okay. So it's like renter's insurance in a
Yeah,
sense?
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, for our leased facilities.
Okay, and if you don't mind, if you could tell me a little bit about printing and binding for donated? It had a 58% change, which again is welcome, but it just seemed out of the norm.
I can tell you, yeah. Okay, so printing and binding donated. The Friends of the Library donate money every year to us, which is awesome. They donate money, about $27.5, I think. They donate money towards programming service, performers. You got your magicians or your other performers who come out and do little programs for the public. They also, of that 27, we break it down into performers, supplies, and printing. That's why it's called printing donated. It came from a donated source. But the printing covers the book talk printing. It's basically our book that has all of our events monthly. I think you guys get the email. That's what that pays for. The decrease is because the current budget includes carryovers. Yes, that's it. Because it's donated money, whatever is not spent carries over into the next year. So your current budget includes carryover money, which means it's higher than what you're going to get next year because we just had a good savings and we carried over whatever's left in there. That's where you're going to see a decrease in the proposed budget because it does not include carryover funds.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And is that the same thing with contractual services donated?
Let's see. Contractual services donated.
And then
That was
also library
yes,
materials,
correct.
kind of all
Same
the same process.
concept. It's because the current budget includes carryovers, and you're starting at that base.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. And then my last one here is uninsured losses. We had a 9,000% increase.
1,000%.
Yep.
Can you-
Uninsured losses is, I guess, somebody trips and falls in one of our facilities and sues us, or medical bills or something. It's something we have no control over. It's handled by LCG's risk management department. At the end of the year, they tell us what our expense is gonna be, basically, based on what happened in the previous year. It's a,
So this is like a shared fund across all of LCG?
yeah. Yes.
It's not specific to the library then? Is that what I just understood?
Oh, no, this $170,000, yes, it is specific to the library.
Not the, wait, is it?
So something happened here
Something
that
happened
was
in our
uninsured?
department, yeah, they said, this, LCG will say, this is all of our expenses for uninsured, and this is your portion, your department, yes.
So what's our portion? What was our portion?
It's gonna be $70,432. Oh, I don't know, I don't know what the problem, what caused that expense, no, that's not me, that's the risk management department.
This man, okay, I'll follow up with them. Okay, thank you, and thank you all very much. That's all I have at this point.
Thank you for those questions.
Hmm? Yeah, it could be pending lawsuits as well, yeah.
Sam, let me know what you find out about that as well when you check with risk management, please.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions about the line items? So what I also did was, I'm gonna request that the finance department of LCG, budget $55,000 for election expenses in the event the timing that we decide to go out for election falls in that fiscal year, if the budget's it's there. That, I'm not sure what's gonna happen with that, so I'm just budgeting it just in case y'all wanna go early or whatever. So basically, I'm proposing an $813,000 surplus in operations. And obviously, when you look at how we budget, we conservative on the revenue side and worst case scenario on the expense side. So what typically happens is we collect more revenues and spend less than what we budget. So that $813,000 is probably closer to $1 million or $2 million, depending on the timing of your capital projects and those big ticket items.
Excellent job, thank you very much.
What I've also included for you guys are pro formas. You can kind of see, I gave you two scenarios. Number one, if you look at the top corner of the pro forma, it says number one, no raises 2025. That's what the proposed budget's basically looking at. And then number two, look at that one, you'll see I included the extra $130,000 if there was a 2% raise in the 2025 budget. The point of this is to show you, okay, column one is your actuals for fiscal year 21. You can see we're in the red $500,000, okay? And the bottom number, $30 million, that's the estimated fund balance at that time. See that? And, the next year, 2022, you can see we were about broke even with an $8,000 surplus. And then last fiscal year, you can see we added close to $2 million to our fund balance. Might be, something to look at. In our current budget, I do in the blue columns, I show you the current budget versus what I project we might actually fall at. And again, it all depends on the timing of things, how fully staffed we are. I know we have a lot of salary float in the current budget, so it all depends on timing, staffing, those big capital projects, when they hit, it's gonna change everything. This is just a snapshot of what I think it looks like right now. It's gonna change tomorrow. In your gray columns, I have your proposed budget, which we just kind of discussed, and what the surplus would look like. And at the bottom of the page, it includes what I think the carryover capital budget's gonna look like, based on the timing of our projects. You can see we have about $16.7 million in existing capital at that time. And what LCG typically does, government agencies typically do when they budget, they say, okay, here's your new operating revenues, here's your new operating expenses, and here's all your carryover capital that you have in your budget. In the scenario that you collected all your revenues, spent your operating, and spent all your capital budget, that would be your fund balance. So you're looking at about between 15 to 18 million dollars in fund balance in that scenario. On the second grade column, I pretty much just estimated out what the actuals might be that year. Again, this is very hard to do with the limited information I have right now, but your $813,000 surplus looks more like another $2 million surplus. So, again, you gotta look at the timing of the capital projects, which is hard to do. As you can see, these things drag on. You can see there could be a deficit in the actuals of 2025 of about $2.5 million, depending on when those big projects hit. Like right now, if we get bids for South Regional Library and the work starts by November, you're gonna have a full fiscal year of a $4 million, $3 million project hit 1 year. So it all depends on the timing of things. And then I project out from that actuals 2025, what it might look like through 2034. And then you can see in 2027, I estimate the Northeast Regional Library opens. You can see personnel increases, some operating cost increase, but we still look pretty good.
Mr. President, I have another question. Ms. Slater, can you, I guess, help me understand a little bit further in your projected fund balance between your budgeted and your actuals, the 18 to the 31?
Mm-hmm. So, like I said, government agencies, when you have existing capital carryover, when they do a proposed budget like that, they assume you're gonna spend all that money right there when they're looking at that financial statement. They say, here's your new revenues, here's your new expenses, here's your old capital, what's the balance? Because they assume you're gonna spend all of that capital money.
Mm-hmm.
They say, this is what your cash is actually about.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Larry, one question that may not be, and the 2.9 tax expires, what is it now for 2024?
Right, the levy rates are 2.91 and 1.84.
And that's when it expires?
2026.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Mr. Angel, the question Mr. Kelly brought up earlier about tweaking the budget, personnel budget, where would that show up in here?
It would show up under personnel related expenses. It'd be 50000.
Yeah.
And related benefits, obviously. When an employee's salary increases, there's other related benefits that increase with it. Like retirement payment goes up a little, life insurance may go up a little, there's associated benefits.
So I don't know if the entire board is aware, but that account needs to be tweaked to reflect what the board approved for the director. We had approved the salary to be up to $130,000, so we need a budget for that. And so Mr. Angel will make that change. We'll have to pass.
Just pass it in the budget.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion. We pass the proposed budget for 2024, that's right, the next year.
24, 25.
That'd be including the adjustment for the salary.
I'll second that.
Lynette Mejia.
Lynette Mejia, Lafayette Parish. I just had a couple of questions. I know y'all aren't supposed to answer questions, so maybe they'll be rhetorical questions, but about some of the budget items. I didn't see in the budget, do we have a revenue amount for the out-of-parish cards, library cards that we have given out? Because when that was passed, it was touted as a cost-saving measure. So I was just curious if we could, over time, get a look at what exactly, how much money that's bringing in. The second thing I wanted to ask was, given that we have a projected budget surplus, and looking at the pro forma over time, it looks like the fund balance is going to be going up significantly, not counting the rededication. And we know people don't like big fund balances around here. So is it possible that we could look at opening at least one branch on Sundays again? That's a thing that a lot of people in the public have really been disappointed about, and they've really been asking about. If we could, see if that would be possible with some of that extra money. Thank you.
No comments.
I have a question for me. What would be the revenue from the cards other than late fees, I guess, or?
Out of parish cards, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
If you don't attend school or work in Lafayette, or own property in Lafayette, or live in Lafayette, and you want a library card, it's $20 a year.
Right.
And that is a number I could get to the board.
Okay. So other than that, there's no other?
No.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I have it, and the motion carries. Alright. Just a couple announcements. The next library meeting is gonna be June 17th, Monday, and the ethic training, sexual harassment training must be completed by December 31st of 2024. Any public comments not related to the agenda? I'm sorry.
Library business. Public comments on library business, not on the agenda yet.
Yes.
We want to just make sure that any comments are about actual library business. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Mary Lab Garcia.
Couple of things, excuse me. There were some really good questions from the board about the budget. If we have the means to share a copy of the budget on the screen behind us, I think it would be very helpful to the public in understanding in greater detail what the discussion that staff is having in response to the questions. And then the second thing is that I was hoping to see a report be as a standard item on the director search, just an update on the number of applications that have been received, kind of where that is. I understand that Mr. Gillane is functioning as an interim director, but there's interest, and I'm certainly interested in following the permanent director search. Thank you.
Lynette Mania.
I'll pass. Mary asked a question I was going to ask them.
Melanie Champagne.
Melanie Champagne, Lafayette Parish. I really enjoyed that you guys addressed some community confusion through email and making corrections and adjustments to make sure that everything is accurate, what is happening here at the meetings, and I want to thank you for that. Sometimes in past meetings too, I've seen you done the same. You've explained and clarified things from previous meetings. And I would like to request that you continue that and expand upon the reason for library words being removed from the mission statement, especially diversity and free. I don't think it's an unrealistic or unreasonable expectation that you provide the community why these words were taken out of our mission statement. assuming the best. It seems like you may have thought this was a good reason, and if there is a good reason, I think that it should be expected that we are provided with that. Obviously, that would just be really a genuine way to listen and respect the community. And the last thing I want to point out is the incident last meeting after public comments. I was addressed by Mr. Robert Judge after the meeting, and I find it really unsettling that public comments are used for people to try to intimidate patrons. Whenever a woman asks any man to walk away from them, the expectation is that you walk away immediately. Doing anything else gives the signal that we are not safe. So, I would like for you to be respectful and not use public comments against the public. Thank you.
Art Connor.
Okay, this is, comments are only library business, Mr. Connor. Let's see the comments.
Right. Being adjourned.
Turn this off.